So I already made 2 rant videos about this movie, and it hasn't even come out yet, so I might as well make it a trilogy. The Flash. There's more news about it. And God, I don't think this movie's gonna be very good. Like, listen, okay, I'm not buying everyone saying that it's gonna be the next Dark Knight, but for The Flash. If anything, it's gonna be closer to, like, Green Lantern, but I'll explain that more in a little bit. There was some new news that came out yesterday about who the villain is gonna be, and we already knew that it was going to be Ezra Miller, but just, like, a different variant of him. That was already known information, which, by the way, might I ask, you have hundreds and hundreds of comic books and decades upon decades that you can pick from in terms of characters and actors and whatever to play in the very first Flash movie ever made, and you decide it'll be a great idea to have one actor play 3 different characters. Why? Besides that, though, the biggest problem is just who they picked to be the villain. Because, okay, everyone wants the Reverse Flash. He is the Flash villain. If you have a Flash movie without him, that's kind of dumb. Though, The Dark Knight and a couple of other trilogies have gotten away with using the more iconic villain in a later season or a later movie compared to the very first one. So if that is their plan, I guess that's fine, with like 3 question marks, but they didn't even pick like Gorilla Grodd or Captain Cold or, hell, Captain Boomerang. I don't know, literally anyone other than Dark Flash. Here's my question. When I first heard that news, I correctly asked myself, who the hell is Dark Flash? Not a comic character. Now, his design is very similar to Black Flash, who is the kind of speed wraith, I guess you can say, of the Flash comics, where, like, he's this decrepit demon kind of thing that runs around and tries to correct speedsters who make incidents in the timeline and, like, break the continuity of the world, which makes sense. I like the character, I like his design, and his suit has always been black with a white, or with a red circle and a red lightning bolt. That's pretty much always been his design, and his name has always been Black Flash. But, for some reason, not only did they not keep the design, they made him look like this. What the hell is that? It looks like Doomsday. Why are there spiky things? Like, the suit design, while we don't see a lot of it in this action figure picture, it's not aerodynamic at all. He's supposed to be a speedster. He's supposed to run fast. So why are there jagged, like, metal pieces sticking out of his suit? Doesn't make much sense. And also, the face design and, like, the creature design of this character is very similar to Black Flash. Why not just use Black Flash, then? Instead of making up a new character for the very first Flash movie. Now, I'm not opposed to comic book movies making up villains, or TV shows for that matter, making up villains or making up characters for shows that aren't in the comics. That's not my problem, because you can do that effectively. Harrison Wells on the CW Flash is not a comic character, but they made him up for the show and they made him make sense in the context of that world. But if you're gonna do that, at least to make a character that is wholly unique. The whole evil speedster thing has pretty much been the Flash's #1 villain in every comic series, almost ever, and it's always the Reverse Flash. But even the whole evil Barry thing has been done to death in 1,000 different comics in 1,000 different ways. So if you're gonna make a new one, at least make it new, make it original, make it a character that, I don't know, I mean, it slows down time, that's already a villain that exists, that's Turtle Man, or Turtle Power, I don't know, it's something, I can't remember. There are hundreds of different villains that you could pick for this, and you decide to go with an original character that, honestly, I'm not gonna be that shocked if it's just Black Flash, but in a different design and they changed the name. Speaking of which, that brings me into my second topic of this video. Why The Flash is just gonna be the next-gen Green Lantern. This movie, what little we know about it, is it's so weird how similar it is to that failed Green Lantern movie. Even down to the fact that the costume seems to be CGI'd, at least some of the costume seems to be CGI'd. Maybe they'll fix it for the final movie, I don't know, but this don't look good. And Green Lantern did the same thing. The mask both looks ridiculous in both movies, and that's just visual things. In terms of story-wise, it seems to be similar in terms of you got a character who popular, but isn't the most popular DC character to ever exist, so you have limited chances to get the general public on board with him. And while the CW show at first did a good job of showing people why the Flash is a cool character, it fell off and not a lot of people watch it anymore. So you really got to get the general audience in to buy in to watch this character. So why do you pick just an evil speedster, which is just a reverse of the main character that is like such a overdone thing in comic movies? And I don't even mind that trope. I think it creates interesting concepts for fights if you do it correctly. I'm not sure they're going to. On top of that, you're using a villain that isn't the primary villain of the character, which is the same thing Green Lantern did. They picked Parallax instead of Sinestro, even though they cast Sinestro in the movie, and then were shocked when it failed and people were like, I want Sinestro, and then it never got a sequel, so we never even got to see him in live action truly be the character he's supposed to be. The Flash movie probably has Eobard Thawne in there somewhere as a very minor character. Maybe they'll show him, maybe they won't, maybe it'll just be a reference to him. I don't know, but I guarantee you the name Eobard Thawne or Reverse Flash or something will be named in this movie, and we won't get to see very much of him. And we won't get to see the true character that we want to, because we're going to focus on a character that isn't, that is a changed version of a character that is in the comics. It just steals the name, but is different in aspects of his origin and his powers, which is the same thing they did with Parallax in the Green Lantern movie. The true big differences between these movies really boils down to Ryan Reynolds didn't have a very public meltdown right before the movie came out, like The Flash did, and like Ezra Miller did, and that the Green Lantern movie couldn't market itself off of, oh, it's the great return of Michael Keaton as Batman for the first time since 1991 or 92 or something like that, which this movie can, but that'll probably boil down to just being 5 minutes of screen time anyway. Even the production of like a movie that's been trying to get made for so long finally comes out is very similar between the two. And Green Lantern, not a lot of people know this, but Green Lantern was supposed to tie in with the Superman Returns movie that came out in 2006, and they were going to try to build their own cinematic universe all the way back then, but the movie didn't make enough money, and then they decided, let's move away from that, reboot, and then we got Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's cult of whatever the hell happened there. But you can see this is kind of the same thing. It's supposed to be a continuation of the DCEU, kind of. It has some of the same characters, but also it's supposed to launch a new universe, and who's gonna watch the movie? I'm a gigantic Flash fan, and I could not be less excited for it. It's the very first movie to be of the Flash to be made, and I'm not excited as a Flash fan who has Flash comic books, who's watched and enjoyed almost everything I can about the character. That's a problem. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the movie. I still haven't decided if I want to support Ezra Miller, especially if they're thinking about keeping him, which I told you in the last video that I made they were going to do if it made money. They don't really care about the controversy, and James Gunn, or whoever's in charge now, basically, they didn't confirm it, but there's a rumor going around that he is, if the movie is successful, they want him back. So, they don't really care about their fans anyway. But, yeah, that's just my opinion on it. Leave your comments down below in terms of what you think about it, because I'm just not excited for this movie. It's going to be the next Green Lantern. I'm going to be surprised if it does even Batman numbers at the box office. I'm excited for Michael Keaton, though. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye!